In the world of Reddit, there's no telling what you can find. Reddit is an amalgam of threads containing real facts, fake news, theories, absurdities, and colorful conversations. With such a vast amount of information being dumped all over Reddit, it can feel overwhelming at times. And sifting through it all can feel like a daunting task, especially when it comes to movies. So stay tuned and don't go away, because we're about to reveal 10 behind-the-scenes movie conspiracies Redditors actually believe, plus other related news. First up, what are some of the wildest movie conspiracies Redditors actually believe? Let's take a look. As you're about to see, some of the movie theories Redditors believe can seem like they're way out in left field. Theories such as Sony leaking Spider-Man No Way Home details to hype up the film's release, or Palpatine joining Star Wars 9 in post-production. To some observers, the rumors and speculation surrounding the behind-the-scenes aspects of making a film are more interesting than the film itself. We'll start with the Sony Spider-Man No Way Home theory. The latest installment of the Spider-Man franchise was one of the most highly anticipated blockbusters ever. The official trailers deliberately kept Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's involvement in the movie a secret, but a number of leaked set photos appeared to confirm their return prior to the film's release. So was this leak the result of some lowly production assistant taking a break on set, messing around on their smartphone? Or was the leak a carefully orchestrated and well-executed plan by Sony's executives to hype up the already highly anticipated film even more? Reddit user Quilled Raptors 2001 believes that Sony premeditated these leaks and argues every single leak for No Way Home was supported fully by Sony to build hype. But I want to know what the rest of you think. Were these leaks carefully planned by Sony? Drop those comments down below and let me know what you're thinking. Personally, I don't fancy myself a conspiracy theorist and tend to think most conspiracy theories are completely false. But I've gotta say, I wouldn't be surprised if Sony had something to do with the leaks. Next up, do Chris Farley's Shrek recordings still exist? One can only hope. Canadian film actor and Austin Powers star Mike Myers brought Shrek the Ogre to life in an unforgettable and iconic way. But believe it or not, the role was actually written for Saturday Night Live superstar Chris Farley, who was originally cast as Shrek before sadly passing away in the midst of the production process. One Reddit user named YoungBeef03 says, "The incomplete recording of Chris Farley's Shrek dialogue still exists. Words cannot describe how cool and weird it would be to hear it. It would have been really incredible to see Chris Farley's version of Shrek. I think Chris would have done an outstanding job bringing everyone's favorite big green ogre to life." But for now, let's move on to another wild movie theory floating around in the Redditverse. At least one Redditor is convinced that John Hurt's Indiana Jones role was written for Sean Connery as Indy's dad. Reddit user D2022M argues that John Hurt's role as Harold Ox Oxley in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was originally written as Dr. Henry Jones Sr., but Sean Connery passed on the part. D22M argues, when Connery passed, it was rewritten to be Indy's old mentor and Marion's father, Abner Ravenwood, a new character no one cares about. Up next, are you ready for one of the wildest behind-the-scenes movie theories ever? Wait until you hear this one. One of the wildest Reddit movie theories I've ever heard is the theory that Gus Van Sant wrote Good Will Hunting. If the theory is true, it would mean that someone, or a group of administrators working for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, made a very big mistake. Why? Because Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who both starred in Good Will Hunting, each won Oscars for writing the film's screenplay, and it made them the toast of Hollywood. From that point on, champagne would fall from the heavens for the two young stars, doors would open, and velvet ropes would part. Ever since then, however, rumors have persisted that the actors didn't really write the script. Redditor Sleight of Hand 1 believes that director Gus Van Sant is the true author of Good Will Hunting. Again, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but I do know what Sleight of Hand 1 is saying is completely accurate. Sleight of Hand 1 says Damon and Affleck wrote a thriller about the FBI hunting down a secret genius. Van Sant steered them in the right direction by rewriting it as a very touching character study about a molestation victim clinging to his friends and struggling to open up to a psychiatrist, which sounds exactly like a movie Gus would write. That is 100% true. It's clear to nearly everyone in the screenwriting community that Gus Van Sant's fingerprints are all over the Good Will Hunting screenplay, even though he was never credited with writing it. Stay tuned and don't go away, because we're looking at some of the wildest movie conspiracy theories ever. Next up, were the recent Halloween sequels unplanned? Let's have a look. There's this crazy theory on Reddit that says the recent Halloween sequels weren't planned. Is it really crazy though? Or are there some elements of truth to this theory? After David Gordon Green's Halloween reboot successfully breathed new life into the franchise and became a box office success in 2018, Blumhouse announced that it was the first chapter of a trilogy of films, with sequels Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends set to follow. Reddit user CZJG argues, both Kills and Ends are total cash grabs that weren't planned until the studio realized how big the hype between the Halloween reboot was. That's why they brought back so many legacy characters in Kills. Moving on now to another wild Reddit conspiracy theory, and this one's for all you Star Wars fans out there. So listen up. This theory suggests that the Empire was added to the Rise of Skywalker in post-production. Redditor user Toodles14 is totally convinced that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker added Ian McDiarmid in post-production. Toodles14 says a resurrected Emperor Palpatine was never supposed to be the big bad of the sequel trilogy. Toodles14 theorizes the original plot was going to have Matt Smith either playing a young clone or a different villain entirely. According to Toodles14, the film is full of evidence to support this theory, and they argue nobody interacts with the Emperor in the movie. Rey and Ben just stand across from him. Hardly any on-screen dialogue mentions the Emperor as a factor at all. Most telling of all is the art of book for the movie, which makes no mention of the Emperor at all. Anyone who's seen the movie can tell it is patched together in the edit. Up next, was Artemis Fowl conceived as a more faithful adaptation? We're about to find out. Reddit user Spudtron98 has a favorite behind-the-scenes movie conspiracy theory and says that Artemis Fowl actually had a plot that was much closer to the book, or at least close enough to make it vaguely recognizable. Spudtron98's theory is backed up by a tie-in book that includes images of scenes that straight up aren't in the final cut, but closely resemble actual scenes and elements from the book's plot. However, Spudtron98 argues the entire thing was delayed and rebuilt into something completely unrecognizable, and what scenes from the original that did remain had been poorly dubbed over. Moving on now, though, to another Reddit movie conspiracy theory that's seriously outlandish. The theory posits that Poltergeist was directed by Steven Spielberg and not Tobe Hooper. 1982's Poltergeist was a massive hit, and while the haunted house classic is credited to director Tobe Hooper, it's widely believed that the film was actually directed by legendary director Steven Spielberg, who was the film's producer and co-writer. Reddit user Ricky Allen 1080 is convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt that this conspiracy theory is in fact true. If you look closely at the PG-13 thrills and family-focused storytelling aspect of Poltergeist, you have to admit that it does seem more in line with Spielberg's filmmaking style than the grisly horror that Hooper is known for. Remember, Tobe Hooper is the man who brought us the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Finally, what do Sonic the Hedgehog and No Time to Die have in common? Well, nothing. But both films have been the subject of wild conspiracy theories on Reddit. When the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog dropped, it went viral for its bad computer-generated version of the video game icon. Fans were outraged, and the studio pledged to fix the CGI. And when the movie was released, the studio made good on its promise, and it was a big box office hit. Reddit user Ogrerzilla argues the ugly Sonic trailer is only part of the movie that exists with that ugly version of Sonic. The outrage and saving of the movie were planned from the start to bring attention to it. Interesting theory, Ogrerzilla. But for now, let's look at the No Time to Die conspiracy theory. Megastar Daniel Craig's final outing as James Bond in No Time to Die was slated for a 2020 release, but was delayed thanks to COVID. Reddit user Stream of a Obnoxious argues that the Heracles storyline was rewritten in the wake of the COVID pandemic and says, No Time to Die's virus/nanobots plot makes no sense because it was butchered when COVID hit. I refuse to believe cast denials that they never changed the movie during the delay. It felt like glued together shredded plot to get around saying pandemic or something. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you for watching.